All right. So hopefully this one makes a lot of sense to you. Happy May the 15th, 2015, 2025. I wanted to talk to you briefly on frequencies, I should say, and negativity and positivity. And we've gotten a deeper understanding just in personal experiences and talking it through. And one thing I found lately is that both negativity and positivity are absolutely fundamental to the human experience. As long as you're alive, you will not get away from it. And there's nothing you can do about the existence of both negative and positive. These are considerations of polarity, after the order of up versus down, right? Light versus dark, love versus hate, and most significantly, male versus female. Okay? Those are polarities. Right versus left. God versus the devil, if you will. These are polarities. Negative and positive, likewise, again, is also a polarity or polarizing. Okay? There is no perception of light unless you understand or know darkness or experience darkness. Likewise, there is no cold if you have not understood or realized or perceived heat or hot. Okay? Remember also, I'll just throw this in there, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. All right, we did a study on that not long ago. With all the aforementioned being considered, I was doing a little self-evaluation. I was having a valley experience. Obviously, the opposite would be a mountaintop experience on an extreme high. All of us have experienced either or, right? Either polarity. Being on the high horse and we've also experienced being in a low valley. Okay, so I was experiencing the low point. And I'm like, I've studied manifestation. I try to be a positive individual. I feel that I accomplish being nice to other people, being understanding, being a giver, painstakingly so, to the point where I found myself being run over, you know, from my perception, taken advantage of, you know. And I know a lot of you are in the same predicament. You've always been taught that to do unto others as you want them to do unto you, and that what goes around comes around. That's what, if you're anything like me, you know, or experience the upbringing in Christianity or other religions for that matter, this is what you were taught. And so you may also find yourself like me asking, well, where is it? I do good for people all the time, you might be saying. And I just keep receiving the opposite of what I'm putting out, right? You find yourself saying that? Well, we have answers now. We have answers. We've done the diligent study, the research, you know, in the experimentations and what have you. And so I'm confident in my discovery as of late. Why is it that you seemingly do not receive the good that you put out? Here's your answer. All right, stay tuned. Stay tuned. So in doing this self-evaluation, I considered going to, let's say, a bar, a club, a pub, a lounge, okay? And for the most part, someone that does not drink, someone that does not partake in the nightlife may, take the occasion to view such activities as negative. And the individual I was speaking to concerning the experience of clubbing had that viewpoint. And I said, now I'm being objective, right? I was trying to be equitable in my conversation and my consideration. I didn't want to be leaning to one side, because when you actively and honestly want the truth, you should be looking at both sides of the equation, not just being, one-sided. Okay, that's not a good thing. Not when you want the truth. And so I wanted to challenge the belief that it's a negative situation altogether, being a patron of the nightlife or a bar or what have you, right? So I said, I challenged. I said, well, why? Why is that negative? Well, this individual said it's negative because, the drunkenness or whatever is going to lead to you wanting to go and sleep around and all this kind of stuff. Okay. To that I said, well, is sleeping around necessarily negative, holistically and in itself? Like, it's just a negative thing? I mean, is it negative to sleep with people? Just being honest, right? Thinking objectively. Is it negative? Is intercourse negative in itself? I think most of you would say no, it's not. Okay, so then we compared it to like visiting a cafe, and contextually we were saying, well, the cafe serves drinks, beers, liquors, and what have you. What's the difference then? If it's not looked at as negativity to go and frequent a local cafe who also serves drinks and what have you, then why is that, not negative, but you see an establishment such as a bar being a negative experience? And so the answer to that was, well, more professionals go in a cafe and, they're not there in drunkenness and what have you, right? Which is, generally it's true, right? But I said, so you don't think that people that go to cafes, there's some people there that might be having the intent to meet somebody, to commingle with other people, to, you know what I mean? I would say so. And the opportunity, it's not like they set a limit at a cafe that you can't drink more than this or that. So if you get a buzz while you're at the cafe. So again, what makes it different? Is it just outright negative to go to a bar, to drink, whatever? And ultimately we came to the conclusion that it's not. Now, what would make it a negative situation? Somebody gets inebriated, they lack self-control and regulation, self-regulation. They go above and beyond, they go to excess. But anything that you do in excess can and usually is negative, right? So that's what I contend makes the situation negative. That is going to a bar, drinking to an excess, becoming inebriated, and then secondarily, maybe your inhibitions are lowered, where you would say things and act in certain ways that you normally wouldn't, in ways that are not socially acceptable and aren't even acceptable in any public establishment, whether drinking is involved or not. there's where the negativity I agreed would be. But for the most part, I would say that most people go there to have a great time, and it's about social networking, it's about socializing. Perhaps it is to meet people, but I don't think that going somewhere, having a few drinks to meet somebody is necessarily negative, was my argument. And ultimately we agreed, okay? When you look at it that way, this individual said, then I agree with you. No, it's not necessarily negative. I said, but we agree that what could make it negative is becoming inebriated. So we agreed on that. So moving forward. So then, but we agree that there can be negativity there, and there probably is. There is some there. So I said, so what happens when I, being depressed or something like that, being in a very negative state already, I had a bad day at work. You know, a lot of people just go right from work right to the bar because they want to take the edge off. They had a rough day. You know, they just want to go, you know, have one, right? And so I'm negative when I walk into the establishment, right? I'm on a negative frequency. So I go to the bar where there is also negative, but there is also positive. We agreed on that. Everybody's not there for the wrong reason, you know? And generally people come there to socialize. They meet some of the same people that they meet there every week. And there's a type of brotherhood and a sisterhood, and, you know, the business gets to know you, and you're a great patron. You tip well. You have a bite to eat. You know, you're feeling good after a rough day. So I would say that there's both negative and positive that is potentially there. But you come in negatively charged, right, from your day. Now, what happens? Let's use a little bit of electrical theory, okay? So there's both positive and there's negative in the establishment. It takes a negative and a positive for current to flow, for electricity to flow, for electrons to flow, right? That's known as a circuit, right? Now, what happens when you introduce a negative, which is typically, in electrical theory, the return, right? It's the return. It takes the electrons and returns it. So the positive sends the electrical charge or what have you, right? The current, it flows from the positive, and then it goes out. So you usually see the black and the white wire. I know. But anyways, so it sends the electricity, electrons flow from the positive, right? Like on the battery, you have the red and the black, the red being the positive, sends it, and then it goes, you know, through the auxiliaries and all the lights and everything in your car, and then it returns back on the negative side, or in the case of a battery, the black side, right, or the negative symbol, returns back. And there's a circle, right? It just constantly does this to keep everything powered up. So again, in the case of the bar, in the analogy of the bar, there are both negative and positive in there. So that means there's a circuit. Energy is flowing through there. See? It needs both negative and positive to be balanced, is my point. And now you come into that situation. Let's say you are a conductor, right? We are antennas. We are conductors of electricity. Electricity, you know, flow when you're properly grounded, etc., right? People put their feet in the earth and they enjoy grounding, right? Okay, you've heard of that. So now you come in to this circuit. Think of a circle. Energy is flowing around in this circle, and you come to this circle negatively charged, negatively affected by the workday, and you could make a connection in that circuit within that bar. What happens? What happens? It's like taking a conductor, a wire, that's what a conductor is, right? And you have a circuit that's energized, and you connect a wire to that. What do you think happens? the electricity, the current is able to flow through that wire. Now, just a wire. It's not connected to anything else on the other end. So the energy is already flowing through that circuit inside of the bar. There's negative and positive, so there's current flow. And you connect a wire to that is not terminated or connected on one end. So it looks something like this. So energy flows through there and it stops at the end. You ever have a wire hanging out of the wall and it's electric, it has charge to it? You know not to touch that, right? It's just a live wire hanging out, right? Maybe it came apart from the switch or something like that in the wall and it's just hanging there. Right, there's energy, electricity on the end. It's waiting to be connected to something in order to allow current to flow through. So it has what's known as potential. It has potential. But until it is actually connected to something else, the current won't flow. It has all the potential, though, in the world. And in summation and in closing, that's what you are. Right? You have not made a connection. You go into the bar, there's both negative and positive there. You come in there and connect to that circuitry that is going on in there. People are talking and networking and, flirting with each other. There's a whole energy, a whole vibe in there. And now you come in, a sore thumb, just a single wire, and you make a connection there to that bar. But you're not connected on the other end because you may be negatively charged. The job got you down. So your boss yelled at you. Your wife is tripping on you. Perhaps the kids got on your nerves. I don't know. Whatever the situation is, you're just negative. And so you have all the potential, right? Being connected to the people, the situation in the bar, you have all the potential in the world, but you can't make a connection. Why? Because your disposition, your countenance might be fallen or felon, whatever the word is, fallen, because of your situation you experienced prior to coming there. Now nobody really wants to deal with you. You're in the circuit. You're in the atmosphere, in other words. You're in the environment. But you're negative, and you're plugged in, but you're not able to make a connection to anybody in the establishment per se, right? You're not going to turn over and talk to somebody who's having a great time if you are just a negative individual. Okay? And so I just want to put that out there. Why? Because you have to make a connection. The scripture says it this way: he that hath friends must show himself friendly. You must act in a friendly way in order to attract friends. Okay? Likewise, you must act in a certain way. You can't just have potential to act, right? You ever see somebody, you ever know somebody that has all the potential in the world? They have every opportunity, in other words, but they refuse to take advantage of the opportunities that they have. Let's just, for example, you have a friend that's 6'5", 230 pounds, I don't know if, whatever, and is very athletic otherwise, right? Can run faster than all of your other friends, but sits on the couch and plays video games all day, all summer long. And this individual is only 20 years old, 23 years old. And you're like, man, if I had your height, if I weighed as much as you did, if I was as cut and as fit as you, there is no freaking way in your age. There is no freaking way I'd be sitting on the couch, man. I'd be out here balling out of control. See, they have all the potential in the world, but they're like that wire that has not yet made a connection. And that's where you may find yourself. Hopefully you don't. All right, so take this for what it's worth, or leave it for what it's not. Okay? And lastly, this I liken to manifestation, or the experience of manifestation as well. Okay? You can have all the potential in the world, meaning you can do all of the exercises of manifestation, right? You can believe it here, you can speak it, I claim it. In church, I claim it in the name of Jesus. You know what I mean? You can do all of those things. But that just indicates that you have the potential. You can dream big. You can be innovative. You can draw, sketch. You can do all of those things, right? Listen to the YouTube videos that tell you, think it and you'll receive it. Think it and believe it and all that kind of stuff. But that is not enough. That just shows that there is potential. But until you make the proper connection, until you do the proper things, actions speak louder than words. And faith, belief, without works, as the scripture says, is dead. Has no life. It's not living. It's just like that wire that has all the potential. It has the electricity right there. If only you would connect something to it or make a proper connection. And that's it. Then current will flow. Then energy will flow. Then your manifestations will flow. The energy behind them. Remember, they start off in the metaphysical. But you must tune in to the proper frequency in order for the energy that it's going to take to materialize that immaterial thing that you desire. You have to do the action behind it. For faith without works is dead. All right? Hopefully this helps you. I didn't mean to go 21 minutes. I meant to keep it about 15. But this has to make sense to you. It's not just enough to think it, believe it, whatever. You have to act upon it. Right? Mama used to say, fake it until you make it. And I didn't really understand that, nor did I really agree to it. But now it makes more sense than ever before. All right. Now you've been made free. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Stay tuned for this, for content like this, for discussions like this that hopefully make more than sense to you. Makes dollars. All right? Now you've been made free. The question is, what are you going to do with it? We'll talk to you next time right here. Knowledgeable Media. Courtney signing out.